What's up, amigos? Commander Jaime here. I'm excited to have another interview, and this time it is Devlin Cassidy, the Scholar. You want to say a few words?
Yeah, what's up, everybody? It's Devlin Cassidy, aka the Scholar, representing Team Kingslayer cards, and I'm just really excited to be here after a fun weekend in Georgia.
That's awesome, man. Congrats on your first top, by the way, too. I've seen you grind for like the past year or two, and progression is always good, but once you hit like those results, it's reaffirming. Check out Dueling Guard's deck boxes, playmats, and binders. The great quality products that are anime based. They continually have more anime options becoming available. Use the affiliated link in the description for a 5% discount on your next purchase. Really, with the interview, you know, I was like the typical questions like I like to ask, and I guess I'll just start us off to get right into it. Like, where are you from? Like, what some communities that you tie in with? I know you mentioned Kingslayer. Maybe you want to touch on that too.
So I'm from Northern Kentucky, like the Cincinnati area, and I played Vanguard there for a little bit, but then it became like more predominantly standard focused as I enjoy like the premium format more. So I haven't touched in with those guys in a minute, but shout out to them as they've really been like with some of my preliminary like playtesting people for a while, like throughout like my Vanguard history. So I'll first give a shout out to the Cincinnati crew, but everyone in Florida, baby, like Jacksonville, Tampa area, Miami, of course, where Kingslayer's from, and the whole entire state of Florida and the Georgia communities are like my goats, my shout outs. We talk about stuff all the time. They love me and my content, and I love them in return just because they're great people, and it's always good to interact with everyone down south. That's why Duluth is my favorite regional to go to, just because I know like a third of the room when I just walk in, and it's a really, really good and fantastic time. But yeah, just so I have a lot of ties down to Florida, of course, and then being on Team Kingslayer, you know, we have a really distinguished group of players. Like 8 of us made top 32 in Duluth. Wow. Yeah, so it's
That's just a good amount of players.
It's just a good amount of players, yeah, and it's a lot of guys, you know, taking kind of some took their favorite decks, others took meta picks, and it just paid off and it worked really well. And then we had like 3 of us in top 8. So
that's cool.
We just been grinding. I feel really good about this season for us, like as a team. While none of us could break into top 4, unfortunately, I think one of us is going to snag gold after my cousin on the team, Zach, already took first in Sacramento. So it's going to be an exciting time.
A few weeks, yeah,
for the team, and we're just hoping to get more people to Japan, as that's the goal, baby. So
that's cool. Yeah. See, I like that. Like with the team goal community like aspect to it, it's not just about one making it, but like how many can you bring? I gotcha. That's what's up. Going into like the preparation and mindset, you know, what are some things that you consider with this metagame? I know you picked Katrina, and Katrina is one of the top decks, obviously. Anything you want to shed on that? Do you want me to share your screen in deck log?
So, I mean, we can just talk about the deck in general because, you know, we can go to my deck log in general. So I thought for the format, this one was going to be really interesting. I really like a bunch of different decks right now in terms of pick. I think your big 3 in general are going to be your Katrina, of course, Grand Blue, and Nubatama, which is a really weird, like, trifecta if you think about it. You have like a really like ride dependent deck in Shiranui, but its ceiling is really crazy, especially with the crest. You have Grand Blue, which has a really high ceiling on paper because of like all the combos they can do. I think they have the highest ceiling out of any deck in the game, but they have some consistency issues that like the deck itself falls to, like being very like early resource reliant in terms of like counterblast, like the Columbard getting your ghost ship to do your draw 2 plays, and then you go into bandit run. Like you have to find all these streamlined things then to eventually set up another zone, and then that's what it's kind of dependent on. And then of course you have Katrina, which she sets herself up. So I was like, if I want to take a deck, I'm taking Katrina, because not only is it a green clan, and I love my green clans, but I think it's the most consistent deck on paper. I think that in a vacuum, you know, all my friends are like, especially up here that I play test with, they're like, show me the cost on that card. And I'm like, I flip a card face up in my G zone. So you can't really deny the deck. You can't deny the deck. You can't like really like try to force things out, because we can play under a Hanali. So cool. Like you drop a Hanali on board or 2, like I have to have 1 or 2 CB open, but I can still have a 5 attack turn with all my stuff swinging over 40k. So it's not like 5 attacks in premium is weak, because like you aim for more, because that's like the kind of the fun part of premium. But when you're starting off with your attacks that big too, like you're just going to start shredding hand, because at base you're asking for like 3
really
cards.
Big pokes
so
that you have.
Under force 2, I mean, it's like, okay, let's do it. So I just thought Katrina is the best deck hands down this format, but a lot of people have been telling me Grand Blue, and I think after this weekend we kind of see the struggles that Grand Blue has, especially like with Rose, with what I was talking about and why I didn't necessarily take the deck. Like while I have it and like I picked it back up because I find the deck very fun, the more I play it, the more I see like how susceptible it kind of is to like its own counterplay of where like if you run into a really skilled player that knows that matchup, that knows where to counterplay when, and then you also run into Mega Colony, you fall into that X2, X3 problem, and then you don't have that shot at topping. So I felt very comfortable with Katrina when I hit like 5-0. I was like, okay, I think I topped. Like I wanted to win out the last rounds, and unfortunately just couldn't seal the deal, but still made the top. And my theory in the room of just not running into bugs, I think I'm the best deck in the room, kind of proved true with Katrina taking the entire event in the end.
Yeah, I agree what you said with like the triangle type of metagame with like some other decks that can counter some of them, if not all of them, especially with like Mega Colony being able to counter Grand Blue and Neo Nectar, because like they need to superior call outside of the hand as well. So, but I mean, like you said, like once you're out of the what do you call it, the winning records compared to Mega Colony, you're in the safe zone. I see.
Yeah, so yeah, that was my thought too. Is like if I go 3-0 to start Duluth, I think I'll dodge the majority of Mega Colony. Now, it was really funny because 3 of my teammates were on bugs between Crow, Logan, and Joans. Wow. And they all like sat near me when I got paired into Spike Brothers. And I was like, dude, all these guys are lurking, playing bugs around me. And so like we just started laughing at each other, like calling each other's our bracket demon. And then Logan, actually, my teammate, ended up going undefeated all of Swiss with Mega Colony. So like, yeah, so I mean, the deck is really good. The Dual Nation cards are not to sleep on. Like, if you have access to bugs, it's not a bad pick, especially with like Katrina now after like post deck set being like very accessible and not having as high as a price range as you can pick up the commons. So yeah.
That's true, very true. You want to start diving into your deck list?
So pretty much the deck list here is very stock. I mean, it's just like the Asha defensive build. Like my list has now been posted on my channel, was on WCCs for VG top decks. And then like here, nothing really like super important to highlight. I just want to talk about like how broken and Largolv is.
Go for it.
This card's insane. The fact that you can set anything up you want in your drop zone between a Heal Guardian or Ladder, or, you know, get another ride target if you have to like stay on the Asha in your first Katrina turn, and then like you can call a Stampione, call another plant token, and then call this to get a re-ride target if you have everything else you kind of need in hand, is insane. So I think Largolv is actually like one of the best cards in premium for decks that have access to it, and thankfully my green clans and Grand Blue do. So I'm very excited about that. I think people really undervalue how important this card, though, is in the early game for Anelma. I actually I can't remember which round it was. One of my opponents damage denied me off of this, and it was really important that they did so they could keep like units on the board for me to like not like poke at. Because then it kind of like deadens the Carpet Maiden column. So when you call your plant token to either the back left or the back right rear guard, it's just that way you can't make that like that free column and push for additionally. Which is why I also wanted to play like a higher grade 2 consistency count of the Silva. I just didn't want to get grade stuck. A lot of people were telling me like you need to play the V Asha, and like, well, I think like the V Asha is a really good card. You had to cut it out of the grade 2 slot to like fit the cards you need, because sometimes you really do need that soul that Sweet Berry generates. And stuff like that, so you really do have to cut the Silva. But I just rather not G-assist all day, and that actually came up by me like having the Silva in hand over like something else. So I'm very thankful for that. And then
I do have
like
a question with your grade 3s real quick. So I've seen deck lists evolve over time too. Like for you, have you considered like Ines, for example?
I don't like Ines just because one, it's like really resource like taxing if you want to get like the max value out of the card. I think that if you want to play like another grade 3, you play the V Asha just because it makes a gift and it calls the 2 plant tokens. Like Ines is only as good as a card as like the cards you find off the top 5, and it doesn't really like, or you just call that as a rear guard to be a beat stick, which like already your plant token solidifies enough, and there's better advantage cards inside Neo Nectar's card pool that they have to do like things better than Enos does already. So that's kind of my thought there on that card in particular.
Because I know like people play that card for like the high multi-attack plants, for example, because like once you get big enough defensively, like they can't land certain attacks. But I think that's why you lean more on 4 Hanali instead. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. 4 Hanali is like the best card in the deck. Like there's so many times where I've like in playtesting just put my opponent under 2 or 3 Hanalis and they can't play. Like especially against Spike Brothers. Like round 3, it was like really sacky because like I didn't open optimally, but thankfully I was able to clutch it out, where like I unfortunately had to ride up into the Asha but I used the G Asha skill plus the Arborea, the history collection stride, to make my back row triple Hanali and under ladder. So like even if he had like a weird tech card to blow up any of the Hanalis, he couldn't. So he just really couldn't play through that, and it was a tough time for him. So
that is rough.
Thankfully, yeah, clutched up the game. But no, double triple Hanali is really good, and like everybody at my locals too says you're like a madman for doing that. But like if it can just keep you off,
if it works, it works. Like, literally.
So
even just having the 2 can seal the deal for you. But having 3 for sure, absolutely. Cool. You were gonna speak on a different card before I interrupt.
And then like just for the trigger lineup, like I know this kind of like looks weird because you typically play 3 of the Stoicheia draw, but I wanted to sack a little bit, and this like ended up like coming up like for me like to double crit my opponent when they no guarded my Katrina that didn't have a force 2 under it. So I just kind of laughed like how the Acorn won the game, but that was really it. Plus, it's like a 15k shield, so like early, like if you're getting rushed by like Grand Blue and stuff like that, like if you do decide to give them the counterblast, like this is a little bit better than the 5k like on that grade 2 turn. But everything else though is like pretty standard.
Gotcha. You mentioned Force
then, like,
2 as well. Like, how did you feel with Force 2 with the deck?
Force 2 is like the only way you should be going. Like Force 1 is like very situational. Like you can go Force 1 if you go first and think that Arborea is like the best stride, so like her, just so that way like your rush is a little bit better, because you can then hit over the defensive. But like every time I went into her, I had the stand, so then I just rather have my front row be like threaten 2 crit, and then that way you can't like lock me out necessarily at 5 damage if you're at 4 off of like healing and stuff like that. So we can play like a really weird game where like I can keep you off of certain things, which is why I kind of liked playing it, because I wouldn't commit hard into this turn. Some people commit hard in this turn, but I play like Near Nectar like really mid-rangey, to where like I went second like under my choice most of the day just because of how strong Katrina is.
I would too.
And it paid dividends, like honestly. So there's nothing really that I thought really necessarily would be a bad pick.
So most of the time you were riding Peony to get 1 gift, and you would just go first 2. Would you stack it on rear guard? I'm assuming.
I go Force 2, slam it on the rear, and then we just cycle that column through like your horticulture elves and stuff like that, just to get the multi-attack. Because then it like forces your opponent to pay in particular like attention to 1 column, and then like if you hit triggers on the other side after
really
your Katrina swing, then you're like you can really make it awkward for your opponent. So
because I know like facing Katrina, like you try to get like the small pokes in where you could take them early on and then guard the big stuff later if you can. But if you have like an extra crit, it just makes it harder. Yeah, cool.
Yeah, because then it like makes it like weird, kind of the damage map, and then like if you put everything under 2 crit, like going first, then you kind of like have that Morfessa issue that we had like back in like 2019, 2020, where it's like, okay, everything in the front row has a crit, so now I have to like damage map all of us correctly, except now the numbers are significantly larger. And stuff like that. Plus, like too, I also like Katrina in the fact that something kind of to highlight is that if your opponent hits an early OT, you have a way to adapt because you have access to and Larvolve and Logos and stuff. So you and Hanalis, like the trifecta of these 3 cards.
So right before your Katrina swings.
Yeah, so like right before if your Katrina swing, like if they hit like an early OT, you have a way to like play like into like them not killing you the next turn because they get the turn skip. The other decks in the format really don't have access to that between like Nubatama and Grand Blue and like some of the other decks. So I thought this deck as well like had a really good like pivot point against the over trigger as well, which like you have to think about in the best of 1.
Very good, very good. Anything you want to mention on the G zone?
Nothing really. Like I strode Katrina and Arborea all day. Like none of the other cards came up except
what came up and what didn't come up.
like flip up Harmonics Messiah. I will say though, and I know I highlighted it in my video kind of for the tournament report, every deck should be playing this. This is a 48k free body, like free G guard, just by you doing a post Katrina turn and not activating a Carpet Maiden. So this card is really, really good. You can like manage your soul properly. This can be like a really free guard in the mirror, because like if they do like the typical poke like on a Force 2 where they go like 20k 2 crit with the token and then 45 after the horticulture like resets the column. This still guards it for 1 G guard. So while I didn't face the mirror in bracket, facing the mirror in playtesting, this is like really important to have. So plus like you have the G zone space, because like you kind of like get to set up your G zone like however you think like what's going to come up. I only played the Megaloma because it was shiny. Like everybody was asking me why I play this. I was like, I have the card in this highest rarity. If I'm not striding Katrina, I'm losing. So like,
it's just bling. Okay,
it's just bling. It's just bling.
For Rain Breath, did that ever come up, or maybe like a Hana?
I should have. Okay, so this is like my gripe of the tournament. Rain Breath should have come up because I forgot that the Nubatama crest turns off all effects until the start of my turn under domination. Which I thought, so I thought like once, because I remembered like off old Rene domination that the Hanali would turn back on. So I should have just called 2 random cards, then G-guarded, because I had the G-guard in my hand to call over the second dominant. And you just turn on the Hanali, so with at least under 1, because he had the restanders and no CB up. So I would have been able to live through that, but because I had to like overguard, because like I was thinking the Hanali was going to come back, I played like greedily in it, and it was a misplay on my part that like ended up like costing me the game. So that's something. Yeah, that's something I kind of like look back on where it's just like, man, I really like had that had I known, which is also like a part of the tournament experience where it's like you really get to learn like appropriate rulings that you'll never forget, because like it costs you a loss in a round, and you're like that sticks with you, honestly. So yeah, but like Rain Breath should have come up, but Rain Breath any other time didn't. But you do play that for the Nubatama matchup just to call over like dominated units when they go into a Rene turn. Yeah,
that's really cool. Plus, I mean, you could stop even other multi-attack decks if you, for whatever reason, don't have one on the board, or maybe you sneak in the second one that way too. So there's a couple of ways that you can use it. So, which is a flexible card.
And then even too, like when they set up like the 3 dominated swings that one turn, you can use the Rain Breath to call a token maker to call the token over like 2 and 3 of the dominated units.
That is your regard,
and then just guard the first attack. So like the card comes up, but primarily for Nubatama, just because like that's where the most applicability it has. Just because Robertina is a crazy G guard that just lets you recycle cards and countercharge. For like no cost upright, pretty much. So thankfully, Neo Nectar has a really good G guard sweep, in my opinion, out of like the cards you do play. So
with Robertina, Antero, and Rain Breath, it's pretty solid. So with that being your deck list for the most part, like what are some notable matchups or key moments?
I'd say I played a lot of DP. Surprisingly, like DP was was crazy. I like round 2. I see middleboard Black Boy, and I'm like, okay, we're doing this, and I just cruised through, and then like round 5, I played against another guy, and then round 7, I played against DP. I'm like, bro, why am I seeing all the DP and no bugs, no Grand Blue, and I only saw like 2 Shiranui the entire day. One that didn't even get to play really. So I was just like, this is crazy. I'm dodging like everything, but yeah, DP typically is a pretty good matchup. There was just like some like unfavorable stuff that happened in my round 7, where like I had to hard guard the Unibird Galaxy for like 128k. So like I put like 140. I put 148 up. Shout out Antero for like being able to do that, and then he flipped the Elder Breath on the first check, and I was like, okay, cool, time to pack this up and go home.
That's rough.
So I got like put to like 9 damage off rip. But the other thing too is like he also like opened up the Linkas in our top 32 game, which was Will. Like shout out Will. Like I respect that you blinged out that deck and you took your favorite deck to a BCS, because it's a solid like floor pick for every BCS, just because it doesn't care about what it plays against. It does the same thing every game and will put you in awkward situations. So yeah, but like I like DP. I find DP fun. It's just like it doesn't do enough for me to like want to keep that deck and like play it. But I like if it's handed to me, I'll play the deck because it's a lot of fun. But yeah, that was like the only thing like really notable. Like everything else is like pretty like standard. Nothing like too crazy in the games. Like the over trigger, I only flipped like twice that day, and it was already when I was already in like really convincing like winnable positions. So like if it was a crit, it's like the same theory. So there's nothing like too like out of variance there. But yeah, so I'm just glad that the OT really didn't decide any of my games throughout the entire day. That was like something I was like concerned of, and again like why I picked Katrina, because I was like, well, if my opponent does OT and it's early, then at least I can respond to it and not like auto die, where like Grand Blue, like everything happens in the main phase. And so like I've set up for like these sequence of events to happen, and X sequence doesn't happen. Now I don't have like the appropriate stuff in my drop zone to do like Beatrice combos and stuff with Negra Lily. I lose, which is not the case with Katrina. So like again, why I think this deck is like the best deck hands down.
Gotcha. No, that's really good that you share your notable matchups. DP was surprising even for me too. I was like, wow, you're facing in DP and other stuff that you weren't expecting, but it worked out. You know, after the event, you know, I typically ask like, did you take some time to reflect, reaffirm, anything like that?
Yeah, I think this event, like for starters, was like kind of like a reaffirmation of like why am I on a competitive team, why I make content, why I love the community and everything. Like I took a break, had some stuff happen, like, you know, life, like my summer was really busy, really didn't get to like look at the game super hard, was trying to balance life and stuff, but like being able to take the break and go and play like one of my favorite trading card games and and stuff like that it was just like really exciting, and just to see all my friends, because they're like, oh my god, Devlin's here, and so like, you know, you give them a big hug and they're like, okay, like how are you doing? And they're like, okay, like he's back. So it's just something like that. It's just that whole community aspect too, and just seeing like even people from Georgia, and like shout out Nate who had judged both days. It was really good to see. And then we went out to Korean barbecue with him after, but it was like really funny too, because we knew a lot of like the judges on day 2. So like when we all like topped, like, you know, Rob, Jacob, like all of them are like, okay, can't check you, 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 because like the conflict. So we had to wait for like a particular judge for us to like get checked by. But
wow, that's funny.
Yeah, but yeah, it was really funny. But like they were all like happy for us, because you know they get to watch from afar and see us well. Just because of that tight-knit community between like Crow's Nest and like all the different Florida scenes, because of KSC and how we've really brought like that southern region together with our like own private tournaments. So, but yeah, so like that's one of the things I was reaffirming. The other thing too is like my dad, it's really funny, my parents like were like not super thrilled, not necessarily like me like having like the hobby, but they will like come by my room and stuff, especially like when I was doing early content. They're like, you know what you're really talking about? And then like when I texted them saying, hey mom, hey dad, I'm like in top 32, they're like, okay, finally it like paid off. And so it was just really funny like that. So like shout out to them, like they're like, we're glad that you have a hobby and like really good friends and stuff, and like you're known about it, and that you provide that love back out to the community. It's we think it's really cool. So and just being yeah, it's just really cool. So it was just being able to like to retouch, relock in, and re-fall in love with the game, if that makes sense, because it's like, this is why I play, this is why I learn, this is why
you remembered your why. Yeah,
absolutely.
No, thank you for even sharing that bit with even like your parents, because like everybody's different, everybody has different relationships, and sometimes like your close loved ones don't necessarily see it the way you see it, and so they may see it like as like, is this a waste of time, or is this just something that is weird to them because they don't do it themselves? And then over time, like you get some type of results or something that all of a sudden like, wow, this is cool that you're doing this and it's your thing, and all of a sudden they become a little more supportive, at least at the very least at that point too. No, that's really humbling. Thank you for sharing that.
Course.
With that, you know, like I always typically ask players to like advice. So, you know, what do you think in your eyes holds players back from topping or even, you know, just breaking that gap?
My thing is that I think people like in general set that bar like way too high going into an event. I always took it one round at a time. You know, you go into that like tournament expecting like, oh, I'm going to get like top 3 and get my world's invite. Like that's not really the mindset you should have about it. That should be a goal of yours. I'm not saying like that have it as a goal of yours, but you shouldn't set that like as an expectation for yourself, because you're going to like really beat yourself up. Like the first round you lose, because you're like, oh my God, now like you're psyched in your mind and all that stuff, and you just can't do that. So like my whole thing was like, even when I was like 4-0, it's like, okay, like next round, just got to take that next round. I was like feeling really good. I got 5-0, like, okay, next round. I even took that step back around round 6. I was like, okay, next round, I still feel pretty good if I top, but it's like I'm just focused on round 7. I'm not like focused on me topping. You know, the results happen. I'll make it if I make it. If I don't, I don't. And then, you know, going to top 32, I was like, I know the matchup. I know everything is paired. Everything's just in the cards. And so, because at the end of the day, it's a game. Like if you're not having fun, you're kind of missing the point. And I feel that when you put like the competition aspect into it, you really get to lose sight, especially when you like put these like really high aspirations that you can like really in a way like get in your own way and not really like live in the moment and enjoy my game. Because like every single game I lost, even though I got lost to Will twice, which like I had both great games with him, like I was very happy, even though I was a little bit like frustrated because, you know, I had to go walk over and tell my team and my boy that came down with me, it's like couldn't bring it home. It is what it is, because like I was like, I did really good today. I just got my first Bushiroad top, like what it is at the end of the day, like, and I did it with all my friends around me in the building, and that's what I'm here for. So that's one thing I do think like people get in their way. The other thing too, I feel like is people don't. I think something that holds people back is not being able to get like really good, accurate play testing. Okay. So me being with the team, it's a blessing, because I can literally walk up to somebody if I've never seen anything and be like, hey, what does this deck do? And they'll tell me, and then like they can gotta give me like a few good tips and blurbs, and I don't have to play it, and I have like a really cool ground covered.
It speeds that up tremendously.
Exactly, it does it. And then you get to play those games, and then like you get to really know. So it's like cool, which probably would have helped me in my Sherry Nui matchup, just know that ruling, which like it didn't even cross my mind. So that's
domination is a cluster mess. Even I have to re-look at it when I play the deck. So I feel
absolutely, but it's just like but I feel like some people don't have access necessarily to like a playtesting group or like a playtesting resources.
Right.
And it's why I pride myself on my channel of like being very open about like, hey, this is what I think. Hey, this is like what you should be playing. You should approach the game, like talk about like this mindset versus this matchup, and why I love giving my commentary videos. So that way, if you don't get to play that deck, or if you're playing against that deck, you can kind of get into the mind of a pilot that's playing like X deck against you. And that's what I wanted my resource to be, because like being an only child and being like stuff like where I didn't have like a consistent playtesting group, because like my cousin Zach was the only one who played Vanguard with me. So like a lot of my early time in Vanguard, the reason I wasn't good is because one, I didn't get to play often, so I didn't have a lot of reps, but two, like my access to information was limited because like I didn't know where to look. And so like with my channel, with my team, with my stuff, like being able to provide that resource to other people to have like those really good high quality games is what I would say is like the other satisfying part, because like you kind of feel bad if your opponent like is egregiously misplaying or like across the table from you, because you're like, this like game is like really now going in my favor, and like I want to say something so that way they can have like a good competitive game, and then it really comes down to like skill expression and stuff. And that's just kind of my thing, is like, because I had someone walk up to me even like in the event, I can't remember who it was, but they were like, hey, like why do you go like so in depth on your channel? Like, don't you feel like that exposes like, you know, your strategy and stuff like that? And I was like, no, not really, because at the end of the day I want to sit across from my opponent and have a good game with them. If they beat me, that means they've learned. Like I'm not here to gatekeep information like or anything like that. Like if someone asks me X, I'm going to tell them X, the X response. So and that's just how I feel at the end of the day, and why I really do like the fact that I've had a platform, people have respected it, and have come to me with those certain things, and it's really cool to be able to have those interactions and to really like show love back to the community, just beyond like saying like, hey, I'm here for you guys. It's like, hey, like, no, I care about you. Like, let's get your game better. Let's do this. That way we have like a really good competitive community for when we pop out at BCSs. Yeah,
no, that was very well said. And you know, I do these interviews, and most of the time they're just players, and every once in a while there's a YouTuber that also competes in tops too. And it's been a while, but like when we are like content creators, we try to provide some type of value for the viewer, and like the in-depthness information. I look at your channel too as a resource too, whether it's just premium or any additional content you have, because information is helpful. You know, it speeds things up, like I mentioned too. And that guy that asked you that question too, it seems kind of like, why would you give out information like that? Because wouldn't that like have the likelihood to decrease your chances of actually topping yourself? And at the same time, like sort of, yes, but at the same time, like you're already expecting your opponent to know their matchup, to be good. So like, what's the real difference too? So have you had somebody actually just tell you like, I watched your video and you know, I know how to beat this deck, or anything like that recently by chance?
Nothing really like that, but like a lot of people walked up to me over the weekend and were like, I'm taking Big Belly tomorrow, and I'm just like thinking in turn, it's like, I love that for you. Unfortunately, I don't think that's going to bode well for you in terms of like your results. If you're like, I respect
you have compassion, but honesty.
I was like, dude, I'm like, my heart hurts because because I see them, they're like I'm kind of like you. I got some SPs and stuff, and it's like, this is awesome, but I'm like, I don't want to see you at bottom tables, brother.
I had somebody telling me they're taking Aquaforce, and I'm like, thank you for representing them.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
Like for real, thank you. You know,
I couldn't bring myself to do it. Even my team was giving me trash. Like, if you're not taking a Great Nature tomorrow, you're a weakling. And I'm like, dude, I'm trying to come down here to actually play. Like, maybe if I get my invite, I'm still going to a BCS.
Yeah, I'll take. I play other decks too. You know,
it's like but
I get you.
So but it's good, and like even too like interacting with fans is weird because I never think of myself as like a big YouTuber or like anything like that. Like I just like go and like I have fun, and it's like, oh, people know me, and it's like really weird because like I was explaining to my friends that don't play card games, it's like being like a micro celebrity in a niche environment. It's like one of the oddest things on the planet, because they'll walk up to you and be like, I know you, and I was like, I don't know you, but thanks to the power of the internet, you know what I look like. So, but it's really cool. And thankfully too, like Dank Ritual actually gave me some stuff to hand out to fans. So like on day 2, I handed away like the big travel bag I use, and a deck box and some stuff. So like it was really cool, like for that interaction too. Like, seriously? I'm like, yeah, here you go, have it. And so it's just like that way of giving back. So like every fan interaction I've had is a pretty good one. I'm really thankful for everyone that kind of like recognizes me, like even if it's just the back of my jersey that says the Scholar or whatever. It's just really cool to be like, kind of get that.
You're really building your own brand, and people recognize it too. I think that's really humbling. It also makes the experiences great because everybody's excited to play, but also maybe their favorite YouTuber, or like, I saw your video, it was actually very helpful, so thank you, or whatever interaction it may be. It just makes it a little more like special, basically. Cool. Thanks for sharing that advice too. Yeah, one round at a time. I'm the same way, and I emphasize this to everybody. You know, eventually those wins will build a winning record, and depending on your winning record, that'll get you in the top and so on. So that's very big too. Keep it simple. Sometimes we're our biggest enemy.
I certainly am. Like,
we overthink, we're over criticize each other sometimes, or ourselves, I should say. So I've been there too. Awesome. Any last minute shout outs? I
first want to shout out my boy Jared. He is fantastic. He's someone that I taught Vanguard up here at school, and he's fantastic. I wish they did top 32 last year, because then he would have made it when we went to White Plains. But he finished the day X3, but he learned, and like he wasn't necessarily like mad at himself. It was stuff like out of his control, and he was piloting Grand Blue. So it was like, it's not an easy deck necessarily to play, and he's doing his thing, and I'm proud of him. It's just, so that was the big thing from him. So I want to shout out him just to make sure that he always knows that I'm thinking about him and I'm respecting his game, and like not to get in his head, because the amount of time that he's come in like the 3 years of playing the game is about the amount of time I've done in 5. So like I'm really excited for him to like be at this level already in terms of his Vanguard playing days. Of course, I want to shout out everyone on Kingslayer. You guys are my family of why I play this game and why I even make content. You guys are fantastic, but in particularly, of course, Logan and Connor, Joens, Robert, and all the other guys too that killed it. Marshall, of course, you know, taking Overlord. That was like, I knew Fuzzy had a field day when he got to put that on the graphics chart. And then Bree and everybody else from the Georgia community that did really well. Like, it was just really cool, like, to be like, hey, I'm in Top Cut. I shouldn't really know these people, but I know like 25% of Top Cut. This is cool.
That is cool.
So
it's like, you're here too.
I was like, oh my gosh. And then like Jake and everyone that I met like up in New York that came down was a really special treat. And then to shout out to everyone at my school, the school that plays Vanguard. It's just fun. Like, it's just the fact that I've got to build like my mini community, and then we found a locals up in Burlington. This has been a really, really special treat. So shout out to everybody there. Good. Shout out to Dank Ritual, of course, for keeping me well equipped with all my accessories and stuff. The travel bag this weekend was perfect to bring clothes and deck boxes and my toiletries, and that's it. And it fit everything in a personal item. So like, they're the goats. Really thankful to have that and on me in my arsenal. And yeah, that's pretty much it. And of course, shout out to you for having me back on again.
I appreciate that too. Yeah, like last time we were playing Premium too, and you know, it's good that you came back, and this time I'm interviewing you. You know, so that's really cool and humbling. And the same thing with Will, actually. Yeah, it's funny. Oh wow. Maybe I should play with others more often.
Yeah, maybe you have a magic touch. Yeah.
Right. It's like, you shall top now.
It's that little ripple effect from a few years ago.
I know, right? Ripples, right? That too. Thank you again for hopping on too. I'm glad you got your top 2 progression, and then now you're seeing results too. I'm excited for you for even like future stuff too. So there's more to come. So thanks again. And until next time, amigos. Bye.
See ya.